What is up, Big Travie? Dude, I saw the subscribe button up on this channel. If you're new, welcome in WhisperNation to this Waiver Wire Tuesday, Week 10, with your boys over here at the Fantasy Whispers. Got Big Travie to my left here on the screen. Find him on Twitter at Big Travie TFW. Find me on Twitter at Johnny_GameTime. Big Travie, how we doing, man? We had a wild night last night on the live stream. A lot of fun over there, but it is now on to Cincinnati. Week 10, baby.
Yeah, it's that point in the week where we have to just shift gears, okay? Put week 9 behind us, no matter what. Riding high after a win, you got to put that behind you. Feeling low after a loss, put it behind you. It's time to get geared up for these waivers, and what better to do it than with your boys here, the Fantasy Whispers. And I hear Potter in the background letting us know he's jacked on a little bit of Jordan Howard this morning.
Yeah, dude.
He's jacked on a little bit of Elijah Moore, maybe.
They love to talk about waiver wires. To Waiver Wire Tuesday is one of their favorite shows. They get excited, obviously. You can hear them barking in the background, so apologize for that, Whisper Nation. But we will talk about Jordan Howard. We'll talk about Elijah Moore. We'll talk about some of these other guys. But first, Big Travie, make sure if you are new to this channel, you are newly tuning in, to hit that subscribe button, get that bell so you get notified anytime we drop new content, which is daily throughout the season.
That's
helping
right.
people try to win those championships. We got 5 weeks left, Travis. Hey, listen, even if you're sitting at you're looking at your roster, you're sitting there. You're 1-7.
You're saying there's no way.
There's no way. Hey, sit back, buckle up, strap on the seatbelt, because you've never been on a ride like this before. With 2 guys on the mics that can help you get to the playoffs, like the Fantasy Whispers here. So make sure you hit that subscribe on the way in. If you're new to the channel and you're leaving a comment, we appreciate all you guys for tuning in. We will get to your comments at the end of the show. We'll answer all your questions on the guys you want to drop, pick up, all of that stuff. So just hang tight. Want to appreciate and shout out to everyone. Smitty Saytal, Patreon subscriber, Eagle Fang, another Patreon subscriber, and Slim Reaper, Patreon subscriber. Our boys representing us. Like I said, they're in for this month's drawing for this Joe Mixon jersey.
Joe Mixon jersey.
So make sure you get on over to the patreon.com/the Fantasy Whispers if you want to help support the Patreon page, the Fantasy Whispers, put out content. And as well, we'll have this article. I'll have a link in the description to the article a little later today. We'll be posting that. We'll get it on the website. So if you don't want to watch this video, you don't want to go through this whole thing and listen to it, you want to read it, you'll be able to do so as well over on our website, thefantasywhispers.com. All right, Travis, I got to do a little preface here. As we know, we got to take care of a little bit of notes and explain ourselves, right? We're going to be talking about players on this show that are less than 50% rostered on Sleeper, right? So we're not going to bring up, our boy Brandon Ayuk's big day that we talked about all week last week and majorly on Sunday, because he's rostered on 72%. But make sure you look for him. Christian Kirk, 71% of leagues he's rostering. Make sure you're looking to see if he's available. Michael Gallup, really like him a little bit more going forward with the news that we saw with backup tight end Blake Jarwin going down for what looks to be season. Rashad Bateman, 58%. I know a lot of people were asked about Rashad Bateman last week, and then moving forward, we still like him as a stash. We still like him on the waiver wires, but he's 58
last week.
Yeah, but he's 58% roster, so he can't necessarily talk about it. I know Charlie's upset about Bateman because he really wanted to talk about him. That's his player. He wanted that confirmation bias, but unfortunately, we can't give him to on the show. Naheem Hines, 58%, and Van Jefferson round out those above 50%, Travis. But we are going to dive into some running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, and quarterbacks that you could stream this week, get you that win, all under 50% rostered. You ready to go, Travis? You ready?
Yeah, let's do it. I just want to make a quick note on those guys. Obviously, Christian Kirk, we've got some injuries with the Arizona Cardinals. Continue to monitor that. Chase Edmonds, what people aren't talking about, the running back room, what that means for the running back room. But Chase Edmonds was garnering about 15 to 17% any given week of the target market share. So for me, Christian Kirk should see a bump here. Rondell Moore is someone to keep an eye on as well.
Yeah. Highest snaps.
Yeah, so we like what we're seeing. We don't like it as Cardinals fans or as fans of Chase Edmonds. We don't like to see him leaving.
Of course this had to happen.
But we're going to see some situations where more opportunities in a very high-powered offense, especially when Kyler Murray comes back, Johnny, and we want to invest in offenses like that. And before we get into it, I just want to say what's up to everybody in here.
Yeah.
I know you did already, but Slim Reaper, Eagle Fang, Smitty Satow,
Nice.
all these guys that are, big Patreon subscribers, we appreciate you. If you guys want to join these guys and support the show, get on over to patreon.com/the Fantasy Whispers and help support the brand today. Johnny, you froze in such an unflattering.
Oh no,
You're good now.
I'm good now. But
like,
for a second, I was like, "Oh, I was sleeping." It looked like I was sleeping on you.
Anyways, it was great.
Hey.
Yeah, I just wanted to give a shout out to those guys. But let's hop into it, Johnny.
Yeah, all right. We're gonna start off with these running backs here, Travis. Number one on this list, not number one on the thumbnail, but number one on this list, Devonta Freeman, Baltimore Ravens, rostered on just 24% of sleeper leagues. Came in again, getting the bulk of the carries there, got the goal line work. That was, I would say, more important. Obviously, Le'Veon Bell did get in the red and the end zone, but we are more so looking and saying with Devonta Freeman in this case. So you want to talk a little bit about Devonta Freeman? What do you project? Do you think he is going to be the guy? I mean, we've said it. We said, remember Williams in the beginning of the season we had there. Then that story faded out. Then we had Latavius Murray come in, looking effective. He was a plug and play for a couple weeks. Now it's on to the new oldness, I should say, that new oldness of Devonta Freeman, and you have Le'Veon Bell there. So, do you think it's worth taking him number one overall if you have that spot, or if you have the most WOB or FOB to spend?
Yeah, I do think that Freeman is the highest priority for me, and it's, what a wacky world we're in right now. We're going to talk about Freeman. Look at the running backs in this article, Johnny. We have Devonta Freeman, Jordan Howard, Mark Ingram. Those are the top three running backs we're going to talk about. What year is it that we are in that we're talking about these backs? But this is where we're at. If you look at Devonta Freeman, Johnny, he's increased his snap share over the last 3 weeks while also getting double-digit PPR points over the last 3 weeks as well. He went from 30 to 40 to 58% of the team snaps. Okay, Johnny, and he went from 9 touches to 7 touches to now 15 last week for over 80 yards and a receiving touchdown. Look, we have talked about this before. It was a muddled backfield. We didn't know what we wanted to do. And we were advising against starting any of these guys. Well, Freeman's banged up, or I'm sorry, Murray's banged up. Freeman's kind of, just catapulted himself to a top of a very shaky depth chart. And I don't think there's a lot of, security in picking up Freeman, but I do think that we know that sometimes in these backfields, somebody emerges. And I think it seems that over the last 3 weeks, that's been Devonta Freeman. And I think that you want somebody in this backfield if they can emerge, because they do run the ball quite a bit. His upside is capped, but as an RB3 with RB2 weekly upside, like that's good to get off the waivers at this point in the season.
You got some teams coming up here with later buys. So, it's one of those, it sounds gross when you throw them in your lineup, but fantasy points are fantasy points. And if you need a running back this late, it's not a bad move for you to pick them up, even if it's, again, I love this, truly epic coming in here. This is great. This is related. So be careful with Freeman. They're probably going to sign Todd Gurley next week, and they probably will, and throw him on their practice squad. And yeah, they definitely could. But again,
they're trading for AP.
We've got 5 weeks left. You got 5 weeks. You can win all 5 weeks by putting together a waiver wire team, plug and plays, guys. I'm not saying your whole roster is a waiver wire team, but plug and play guys that are just going to get you through these next, buy you wins, and you get in the playoffs, and then anything goes, especially when you're sticking with your boys and you're hitting that subscribe so you get notified whenever we put out new content to keep you ahead of the game. You could do this with a guy, and it starts with Devonta Freeman. It's a plug and play if you need at the running back position. Moving on to this next running back we're going to talk about. I can't believe it. Like you said, Travis, where did we get into a warp zone here?
Yeah, this is like Back to the Future, man. We're into a doc. We got into the Mandalorian here.
Yeah, dude.
Not the Mandalorian, the DeLorean here.
Mandalorian. Some might want to get in the Mandalorian,
right?
But, maybe. But you're absolutely right, dude. Getting into the car and traveling back a few years. Jordan Howard coming in back-to-back weeks. Okay. Against Detroit. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Like against Detroit. Okay. We understand, right? They're a terrible run defense. The Chargers, we understand they were not the greatest at run defense, right? Like that was what they were giving up the most, but we did not expect it to go to Jordan Howard. But in fact, like you watch this, Travis, Jordan Howard looked good. Back-to-back games with over 4 yards per carry. Back-to-back games with at least one rushing touchdown. He's looked solid. So Jordan Howard coming in number 2 on this list. Talk to me about Jordan Howard. What do you snap share increase from 25% to 40%? Does that keep going up, or do you think this is going to just be a complete headache between Boston Scott, Jordan Howard, and Kenny Gainwell until Miles Sanders comes back?
I mean, it definitely has the risk, and that's the risk of having him here on this list with any running back right now. But I will say this, as you said, the snap share increased over the last 2 weeks, went from 25% of the snaps to 40 this last week, went from 12 carries to 17. He's definitely the grinder, like the guy who's going to be the
Gruden
first
grinder.
Yeah, the first and second down thumper for them right now while Sanders is out, but we're at least getting one more week of that, Johnny, and possibly 2, depending on the severity of the ankle injury there for our guy Miles Sanders. So that being said, I think Howard has some at least this next week and maybe the week after. I will say Denver, not a terrible matchup, but they have picked their spots. Last week they showed out. When they played Cleveland, they gave up everything. So it just really depends. This team has gotten really run heavy over the last couple weeks, and I think that might continue as they're trying to win games here. They got really close to beating the Chargers last week. Obviously, beat the Lions next week. The week before. This next week they're playing Denver. That's a winnable game for the Eagles. I think they're going to continue this formula of run heavy, taking the ball out of Jalen Hurts' hands, so to speak. We hate that, I guess, as truthers of Jalen Hurts, but that seems to be the way the Eagles are trying to play right now. And so for me, I think that plays into Jordan Howard's hand. He'd be my second priority here with the situation.
I do think it's also interesting to note that, like, if he continues to play like this, he continues to look good, he continues to be effective, you could definitely see that when Miles Sanders comes back, Miles Sanders actually takes the scat back role. They continue to roll with Jordan Howard as that thumper, and it's the thunder and lightning there that they kind of been searching for.
Do you think that's likely?
I do think. Have you seen this coaching staff, dude?
Well, you think
they
it's
do
possible.
things that don't make sense.
You don't think it's likely, though, right? I mean, I think if Sanders is going to walk right back in,
I'll tell you, it'll be likely if Jordan Howard keeps playing like this, because they haven't had a rushing game like this. So if Jordan Howard continues to produce like this, they continue to be efficient on the ground with running him, I could highly see it happening, because that coaching staff has no idea what they're doing. They don't know how to put Hurts in the right position. They don't know how to use their running backs right. And I mean, they're finally starting to kind of get it. So, like, it would make sense. I'm not saying it's an indefinite, right? I'm not saying it for sure, like, Jordan Howard's this league winner, but I do think, based on what I've been seeing from that coaching staff, it wouldn't put it past them to be like, all right, Sanders is healthy now, and Jordan Howard's look good. I know we drafted this high rookie, but we're not using him. And, Boston Scott is what Boston Scott is. We knew that. That's why he was third on the depth chart from day one. So let's move in this other direction. Why not? Like you said, they want to win games. So if they can, even if it's ugly, they'll do it, I guess. All right, moving on now to the third running back here. Mark Ingram, New Orleans Saints, got traded a couple of weeks ago back to New Orleans. He was happy about it. Good for him. Roshan, just 38% of sleeper leagues. Not super, super effective so far. Not like he's had a monster game, Big Travie. But again, we do know that Mark Ingram we've seen him get a lot of touches, whether it was it was for Houston, right? But we do know that his body is still holding up, and that if anything does happen to Alvin Kamara, it's a lock for that Ingram is going to be that next dog up that is going to get the rock the majority of the time. Will he be nearly as efficient as Kamara? Of course not. But Mark Ingram, you want to talk about Mark Ingram, his potential upside as why you would want to go and just stash him right now, what you're seeing from him right now.
on a short week against Tampa Bay last week, he came in and saw 8 touches, and we weren't wowed by that. But I did preach holding him because a short week we didn't know what he would do. He increased his snap share to 34% this last week and 14 touches, Johnny. And that isn't a huge number, but it's enough to be like, let's raise our eyebrows here. And especially because he caught 5 of 5 targets here for 21 yards. So again, not a huge day for Mark Ingram, still sub 7 points in standard leagues, but 14 touches is 14 touches. And we are living with the fact that Alvin Kamara in these 2 games with Mark Ingram saw his lowest snap percentage, 67 and 68% over the last 2 weeks. And so again, we are seeing what I thought could happen in this offense, where Ingram's going to carve off a role like he had before. This is a very, very watered down version of the New Orleans Saints that we saw back with Drew Brees when they would run a lot, use Ingram as the, kind of change of pace back, and have Kamara continue to do what he does. I would be a little bit concerned. So I know this is going to be the big question, maybe not so much waiver related, with Alvin Kamara. If you can sell Alvin Kamara at an absolute premium right now, I would be considering doing that, only because Trevor Siemian didn't look terrible, but did not get the win. And the more that they don't win games, the more they're going to want to go to Taysom Hill. And we saw the target market share for Alvin Kamara dip tremendously with Taysom Hill at quarterback. And that's not because he's not capable of dumping it down. He just chooses not to. He's going to scramble instead. And we've seen that before with rushing quarterbacks. So a little bit of a sell high there on Alvin Kamara mixed in with the Ingram. But I do think Ingram's worth a stash. He's at the very least a high valuable handcuff for Alvin Kamara. And at the most, he's going to have some low-end flex appeal from week to week if he can get 12 to 15 touches a game in this offense.
I do find that very intriguing, like you said, and trying to get off of Alvin Kamara right now. I think that's a great move.
At a premium. Like, I don't think you should go and sell just out of panic, but you need to look at what's going on here. And this offense has changed dramatically over the last 3 weeks. Yes. And it has risk to change even more if Taysom Hill gets the start in the coming weeks.
Just to give you a reference, WhisperNation, I did this in a league. I traded Kamara, and give you kind of a reference of what Big Travis kind of think about. I was able to get Tom Brady and DK Metcalf for Kamara. So it ended up being a great trade for me. I pulled it off a couple of weeks ago, and I have not looked back since. But yeah, try to get something like that, because Kamara's name weighs so much in a trade. Even if he's not performing to what he was in the past, people are going to look at that and be like, oh, I'm getting Kamara. Oh, wow, I got to make this, because in people's eyes, he's a top 5 running back still. And I agree with Big Travie there that you should try to get a haul if you can, especially coming down the stretch with some bye weeks in place. All right, moving on to the next running back here. We've got Brandon Bolden. We've talked about him before on prior waiver wire columns, but he's still available in plenty of sleeper leagues. New England Patriots passing catch running back who's filled in quite nicely for James White. Big Travie, you want to just briefly talk about Brandon Bolden real quick? Why you think he's still a valuable stash piece at the running back position?
Yeah, him and Eno Benjamin make this list in kind of the same tier, I would say. They're the last two. They're the tier below the guys I just talked about, because I don't see a ton of long-lasting value here in these guys. But check it out. Both Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson entered concussion protocol on Monday. So that's something we need to monitor. And if that's the case, look at Brandon Bolden when given opportunities here. 10 touches last week, nearly 80 yards in that game, or a little bit over 80 yards in that game. He is capable of getting a receiving touchdown. He has come in. I mean, I know he only went 2 for 2 for 27 yards in this game, but we also saw Ramondre Stevenson get a lot of work. If both of these guys, Harris and Stevenson, are out facing a Cleveland team here, I think, we know how this game's going to go for them. We know that it's going to be a run heavy game to try and combat this team. So I do think that New England's going to continue to run the same offense they've been running since me and Johnny were in diapers, pretty much. They're going to run the football and throw to their backs, throw to their tight ends. And I think that's a situation to monitor here. So again, just a little bit of a insurance policy should those two top running backs for New England, and Ramondre Stevenson and Damian Harris, miss with the concussion this week. I want to also mention Eno Benjamin, because the news blurb this morning, he almost didn't make the column here, but it's worth noting that With Chase Edmonds out, they believe he's going to get some more run. He saw 9 carries last week. Didn't see any receiving work. Johnny, you might know a little bit more if he can be used in the receiving game at all.
Yeah.
But for me, I don't know if he's got that upside. Like I said, I think we get bumps to the wide receivers, maybe even Zach Ertz with Edmonds out. But Benjamin could be a guy that's a change of pace role. And in an efficient offense, we've seen that pay off big in big plays.
I do think that is a guy that you should be targeting on low key. I don't think you have to put a big wob down on him because, one, James Conner had a monster day. Most people are just thinking, oh, James Conner's going to get Benjamin, though. They do like They do want to see what has because the reality is, and now they could bring back James Conner again next year. It was a 1-year deal. He's been playing well. Maybe they get him again. But as of what I'm hearing right now, they do want to bring back Chase Edmonds next year, and then they want to see what has because they want to see if it could be an and Chase Edmonds kind of show. And so with he is a scat back who we've seen him get a lot of receptions out of the backfield. So I do think he'll take over that Edmonds role, maybe not as big as Edmonds was getting, right? Edmonds was getting like 50% of the splits there and a lot of the carries. I don't think he'll quite get that size role, but I do think it's interesting to grab him because he is a good running back, and now he's going to get some potential. So you can get him really, really. And James Conner, not the ideal bill of health for a running back player either. So,
dude, I gotta just shout out to Walkout here. Who hit us with a super chat, so we gotta hit him with a Ric Flair.
Woo! Let's go on a Tuesday. We
love it. Okay, Rockout says, would you rather have CMC or Cook rest of season? I have CMC, but my trade CMC for Cook and one more player. I already have Madison. It depends on who that player is. If you can replace CMC with Cook and another, upgrade, and you have Madison, that's a good deal. I do like CMC more than more than Cook rest of season now that he's back healthy. And we saw him get through that game. You just saw the usage that he got in this game in his first game back. Johnny, he saw over 18 touches. Just over 100 yards. He's going to continue to be the guy and the main focal point of an offense that really desperately needs him. So for me, I would do that, but it depends on who you can get back in return.
Yeah, I think if you get a somewhat
would you do something like a Jerry Jeudy? One of this middle tier wide receiver. If you get a Jerry Jeudy or something with him, or even a waiver wide receiver with some upside, like a Elijah Moore or a Bateman, an Ayuk, something in that tier of guys with some upside to pair with Cook, then I don't mind this deal for you at all.
I don't mind the Ayuk with. If you can get Ayuk or Jerry Jeudy, I think that one of those two in there. I don't know if I would go with, one of these. I wouldn't do it for like Elijah Moore or added on there, or maybe Bateman is kind of interesting, maybe. But yeah, I get what you're saying. Like if you could get some extra value added on, then because I do think Cook and CMC rest away are pretty similar. So it's not a terrible move to make.
Remember, guys, if we're going to get to everybody's questions here, we skip that. If you guys hit us with a super chat, we appreciate that. Rock out. You're helping us continue to grow the channel and chase our dreams. But as TTS Holdings says, everybody in the chat, press that like button. That way this video gets recommended to everybody. We appreciate you, Holdings, and we appreciate everybody in the chat. We're going to get to those questions shortly. Let's move it along here.
I want to ask you, I'm going to give you a list of running backs. I want you to tell me who you would, if you would drop any of these guys for any of the waiver wire guys. Okay. Khalil Herbert, saw Monty come back. Khalil Herbert also going on a bye. Saw Monty come back and just get he's the workhorse. He's back to his role. Khalil Herbert, would you drop him for any of these other running backs here?
Yeah, I think you could do it for Freeman and Howard. I could understand holding on to him to maybe try and sell to the Monty owner, or if you are the Monty owner, for a guy like Ingram, Bolden, or Benjamin. But Howard and Freeman have standalone value for the next couple weeks at least, and especially Freeman. I think Freeman is somebody, this is gross to say, but I think he's going to have season-long value as somebody that could really float these teams that are RB needy, that are contenders, because he's going to continue to see work. And as long as he does stuff with it and he's, efficient, they're going to continue to give him the rock.
Yep. And appreciate, we got some new people in here. Hollywood, we see your question. We will get to it at the end of the show, so stick around. We'll talk about it. Excited there. Okay. A couple other ones I'll give you. Carlos Hyde. Are you dropping Carlos?
Carlos Hyde nearly made this waiver, but it looks like the news out this morning is they expect James Robinson back this week. So Hyde could be dropped for the top 3 guys, similarly as I was saying there.
Chuba Hubbard with CMC back.
Yeah, see, so my stance on these guys like Booker, Hubbard, Herbert, some of these guys, you're going to have to just try and your best to make a deal with those owners that have CMC, that have Saquon, that have Montgomery. And if you can't make that deal, then I don't mind cutting ties with them at all.
All right. This next one, there is a bit of some bigger news that came out this morning. So I'll ask you. So next thing I'm going to ask you about Ernest Johnson, who didn't have a great game this past weekend, but he did see 33% of snaps, 8 carries. But we found out this morning, Nick Chubb and Felton both have COVID, have tested positive for COVID on the list. So Nick Chubb out this week. Most likely.
Didn't see that. So that would have catapulted our boy D'Ernest.
Yeah. So D'Ernest would be D'Ernest would become top of this waiver wire if he's available. A lot of people dropped him because
I think I would put him. I would put him between Freeman and Howard, just because of not the long-term value isn't exactly there. But I do like him for this week. He'd be a huge ad for this week.
Yeah, going against New England matchup. Too bad it wasn't next week against Detroit. That would have been really nice.
Man.
But
still could be. I don't know if Chubb's vaccinated or not. Did that come out?
I'm not sure if it came out whether he was vaccinated or not, but we'll see. We'll continue to monitor that. So Ernest Johnson, make sure if he's available, he would be, and you need to win this week. Ernest would be my number 1 option there. If you are looking at a more longer term play that could also help you this week, I would go with, I would more so lean Jordan Howard than Ernest or Freeman. Freeman scares me a little bit, but we'll see. We'll end up seeing where they end up going there. All right, moving on now. Big Travis, we talked about the running backs. Now let's get to the wide receivers. Not a whole lot in the wide receiver room this week, which is wild because wide receivers are generally where you get a lot of plethora of play at, but not this week. We have number 1 on this list, Elijah Moore, New York Jets wide receiver, had his day. Shout out to WhisperNation. We had, I believe it was Smitty Satow was calling for an Elijah Moore breakout game. It came.
It was Brett Forsyth too.
Oh, yeah, and Brett. That's right. And so we had Elijah Moore finally came out. Had his coming out party in the NFL. 2 tutties. Had some nice catches there as well. Do you trust in this moving forward? Do you trust in? We know what the pedigree of Elijah. A lot of people were projecting him to be the number 1 wide receiver scoring this year, but it just hasn't lined up. But now he's finally starting to get some snaps. Corey Davis was banged up in this game. He's expected to be back. Do we buy into it?
I'm buying it a little bit here. 6 targets or more in 3 straight weeks. 13 catches on 14 targets over the last 2 weeks, Johnny, for over 140 yards and 2 touchdowns in the back-to-back or in these last 2 weeks. So really, he's starting to warm up. You see that happen with rookies before, where they have great pedigree, they look really good, and they're getting good things out of camp, and then they have the lull. We saw this with Justin Jefferson last year, right? And I'm not saying that Elijah Moore is Justin Jefferson. I think it's going to be a tier or 2 below that. But that is something that I would really kind of look at here as something to monitor, because he is a guy with great pedigree. We know that. And he is a guy in an offense that is lacking kind of stars on the outside because Corey Davis has been hurt. Now, if Corey Davis comes back, Johnny, does that concern you with Elijah Moore? Or do you think that Elijah Moore can kind of step into his own here? That's where I'm at. I'm a little bit torn. I think he's got the most upside of the guys we're going to talk about. But I do think that you're going to struggle to find times that you're really confident in starting him.
Yeah, it's just the quarterback situation there for me, which is why I can't fully buy into this. They're not going to be able to produce a lot of fantasy options for you. And I think a part of why Elijah Moore was so effective was because of the backup quarterback situations, and that kind of game script really benefited him. I don't know if we're going to be able to project Elijah Moore to start in any other game. I mean, sure, there might be some matchups down the way where we might get an inkling that, hey, it could be him, but I just don't feel super confident in it. But I got to say, we were talking about our guys. Rock out again.
You're hitting us with a Ric Flair.
Woo! Yeah.
I
Let's
love that.
go. I know.
The
I do.
yeah at the end there,
I
dude.
know the Ric Flair.
That's
He's
great.
like, oh yeah.
So I think this is a follow-up to your question about trading for Cook. The Cook owner also has tight end Waller, Mike Williams, and Hopkins. If you can get Mike Williams because he's buying the dip, like if he's saying Mike Williams is struggling, and look, I think Mike Williams is going to struggle in tough matchups, but he's going to have his games too.
Yeah.
So I love this. I love picking up Mike Williams on addition to this. If you can add Mike Williams to that, I doubt the owner's going to go for that, but we've seen weirder things on this show. We've advised better trades. So go get it, dude. Rock out. If you can make this happen, add Mike Williams to there.
That would be exciting. I would be super jacked.
Let us know too. We'd love to shout it out if you get that deal done.
That would be fun. It gives help to other people that might be watching the show later. They might not think about doing something like this. Then it allows them as well. So that's awesome. Way to go, rock out. Let us know, like Big Trev said. Okay. Next up on this list, we got Donovan Peoples-Jones, Cleveland Browns wide receiver, stepping in for OBJ. And what do you know? One game without OBJ. One game without OBJ, and Baker has no problem hitting Donovan Peoples-Jones for a long tutty. But here's the thing. Do you see this continuing, Big Travie? Or was this just, like I said, a chip on Baker's shoulder where he was like, hey, you want to see me sling this? Oh, OBJ's daddy? I'll show you how I can sling this. Check this out. What do you think?
Yeah, so this is tough for me to buy into because we know Cleveland's offense very low volume in the passing attack, and we don't know what to trust here. But I do think Peoples-Jones has shown flashes of brilliance this year. Remember, he had one game where he had only 2 catches, but these were like toe drag swag catches, beautiful catches on the boundary. He's got it in his repertoire to be the guy that Baker can lean on. I just don't know if I trust that. Similar to the Elijah Moore, the talent is there. There should be some opportunity there, but you're going to be struggling to find ways to get him in your lineup, especially as we clear through buys. You're not going to really have a lot here, but I do think he makes the list as the second wide receiver here with the most upside here, and I think he's worth a waiver at. If you're desperate for wide receiver, he's a guy you can look at because not only they're going to play New England, but then they get Detroit, Baltimore before their bye. Those are 2 great matchups for wide receivers between Detroit and Baltimore, Johnny.
Totally agree there. All right, Big Travie. Got another.
Yeah, it's truly epic helping us out here. Chubb is vaccinated, so be careful. He may end up playing. Yeah,
okay.
So it's earlier in the week. This isn't a Thursday game, so if he returns 2 negative tests in time, he could be fine. But again, if he tests positive today, that's a short turnaround still. To try and make that happen, but just be that's why he would make it below Freeman for me. Ernest would, because I think that Freeman has some real season-long value for you.
Love it. Okay, last wide receiver here on this column here he was on last week as well, but then came up. He had also a vaccination issue. Alan Lazard, Green Bay Packers wide receiver, roster on just 15% of Yahoo leagues, but should be getting your boy Aaron Rodgers back, maybe. We'll see.
Yeah, he saved his day, Johnny, with this like wild touchdown.
Dude, that was a cool little.
Yeah, he did a
little.
Like
a little step under, dude.
Yeah,
he's been watching some boxing videos.
Yeah, dude. To the right. All right, but Lazard for me, 1 of 1 for 20 yards and a touchdown last week, but that's really not it. Again, we said the 2 weeks prior to the Arizona game, Lazard and had really out-targeted our guy Devontae Adams in those 2 weeks. So really, Lazard is somebody that's coming on in the offense. He's playing his role well. But I do think a situation could arise here where he actually, with Tunyon out, with this offense needing a secondary weapon, Lazard could be that guy. And I think he's a sneaky ad right now. I don't know that you're starting him next week and with a ton of confidence, but he's going to be a guy I think by season end could easily be on that wide receiver 3 borderline.
Love it. All right, some wide receivers I'll ask you about rather quickly, and then we'll move on to tight ends and quarterbacks, and then we'll get into the listener questions right after that. Brian Edwards, you dropping Brian Edwards for what a disappointment that was.
All 3 of these.
How do you only get four targets on 93% snap? That's wild. In a game that
it's just an offense that doesn't really need a main vein that way. They have Renfro, they have Waller, guys that they can get the ball to consistently. They don't need a guy that plays the traditional X-wide receiver to be their target hog.
Next one kind of hurts me, but we got to throw it out there because it's the stats aren't pretty. Kadarius Toney. You dropping Kadarius Toney. Hasn't played above 57% snap share, even with a banged up roster like the Giants
I
have.
don't see any of these guys on the waiver list this week having the upside Toney has. Maybe Elijah Moore, maybe.
Yeah.
So I would hold Toney unless you are desperate for guys to get it right now. Toney's a project for me. He's going to sit on your bench and you're going to wait till he can increase the production and match some of the upside we saw. But if you don't have that luxury, then go get one of these guys. I understand that 100%.
I like that. And then last guy, I'll give you two, just a quick hitters.
Ooh, 2 for one.
Our boy, Jacoby
Yeah.
Myers or Van Jefferson. Would you cut either one of those players?
Van Jefferson is at the top of this because I do think Van Jefferson's a hold. He was rostered over 50%, so that's why I continue to hold him. But yeah, you can drop Jacoby Myers. Unfortunately, especially in standard league scoring, he's just not. Yeah, 4 or fewer catches in 3 of his last 5 games. So, Johnny, he's just not really getting it done for them. They're going to the backs, they're going to the tight ends, and they're just a run-heavy team. So,
all right. Now we're moving on to the tight end position here. We got a couple of names. We also did talk about some of these guys last week. So, once again, if they're still rostered, we'll just fly through these ones. Pat Freiermuth had a big day. Had a big Travis. Shout out to you. Called it.
And I got to give a shout out here to Slim Reaper because he was talking about Pat a couple weeks ago, and I didn't laugh at him, but I said, look, it's going to be hard to trust a rookie tight end. Well, somebody's breaking the mold for me on that right now, and that's Pat Freiermuth because he continues to be a guy that they look to in a big way. So for me, we'll just look at the production here. 6 or more targets over the last 3 weeks, 4 or more catches over the last 3 weeks, and 3 touchdowns over the last 3 weeks, 2 of which came last night. He's seen 60 or more % of the snaps in 3 weeks. He also seen back-to-back weeks with over 70% of the snaps. Johnny, he is the real deal for them. Because Juju Smith-Schuster no longer in the lineup. This is a guy that fits this style of offense, the dink and dunk style. We know Pittsburgh is kind of this ugly, monotonous style of offense that's going to dink and dunk their way down the field, and he fits it perfectly, especially in the red zone. So, yeah, give me Pat Freiermuth. If you picked him up because you were tired of, Tunyon went down with injury, or you're tired of Higbee's inconsistency, I think you're going to be sitting pretty here with a Pat Freiermuth for the rest of the season here.
Yeah, I like that move there. I think he's definitely an interesting player. Probably the third after Najee in Pittsburgh. But yes, probably the second most interesting pass catcher at the moment because of that situation.
Right.
Dan Arnold.
Hey, Arnold.
Hey, Arnold. Dan Arnold getting some targets over there in Jacksonville. Not a bad floor play here with some higher upside if he can find the end zone. Jaguars tight end now. It's been traded 3 times this season. 40% of sleeper leagues. Dan Arnold, we've talked about him on prior shows. He's like a check down guy there for the Jags. I don't know how much his upside is because the upside there for all those players seems to be pretty limited right now. But I do think you could do much worse at the tight end position this week.
Yeah, especially in PPR. Johnny, he's got 30 targets over the last 4 weeks, 20 catches over that same span. He continues to get targeted, and we know in this offense they're going to target him. We know rookie wide receiver or rookie quarterbacks love their tight end, and we know our guy Urban Meyer loves this tight end as well. That's why they traded for him. So, yes, you're right. He's a lower end tight end because he hasn't seen pay dirt yet, but I think that has to be coming based on the target volume and the yardage that he's been able to rack up over the last few weeks. It should just mean that regression's coming for the touchdown situation.
And then last but not least here, we got Tyler Conklin as the last tight end that we're going to talk about to pick up. 3 straight games, Big Travie, with over 82% snap share. He's been low key for you, especially if you're in a PPR, he's been a pretty solid tight end for you. Do you think it continues this week against the Chargers who, last week we were really high on him because of the matchup against Baltimore giving the most points to the tight end position. but this week gets the Chargers. Are you still rolling into Flames?
Yeah, the
with all
Chargers are actually another good matchup as well because they're so good on the outside, they kind of funnel from the running backs and the tight ends. So I do think it's a decent matchup. And I think Conklin can be rolling out there. Now, the thing is like you probably had Conklin in your lineup to patchwork, maybe a TJ Hawkinson buy or a Gronkowski buy or a Ricky Seals-Jones buy or what is his name?
Who was the last team that was
Logan
on
Thomas?
Logan
Thomas and yeah, so those guys. So if that's the case, I'm shifting back to those other guys that we trust a little bit more. But Conklin is a guy that if you're in the mood to stream this week, he's a guy you could look at for sure.
All right, like that. Okay, we're going to move on to the quarterbacks here. We'll run down these guys, and then we'll jump over to the listener questions. Want to say appreciate you guys so much once more for sticking with us, hanging around to the end of the show. Quarterbacks, Taysom Hill, New Orleans Saints. He should potentially get the start maybe moving forward. We'll see what ends up happening. 28% of sleeper leagues. Justin Fields, quarterback of the Chicago Bears, had another good game against a difficult matchup, or a solid game, I should say, not a great game. But Justin Fields, and then we got Teddy Bridgewater, surprising us all. And this is what you get. This is Teddy B. Tell me Teddy B is not a poor man's Kirk Cousins, which sounds even worse because how do you get a poor man's Kirk Cousins? But it just seems to be that where Teddy B, not super sexy, but he's going to put you up fantasy points, going to get you through a bye week if you need him.
Yeah, Teddy Bridgewater showed up against Dallas here just when we were ready to write him off. Got over 20 points in 6-point touchdown leagues. Going to play a Philly team that has been known to get in shootouts here and just gave up over 35 points to your boy Justin Herbert, Johnny. So for me, Teddy Bridgewater got Jerry Jeudy back. Probably going to get Noah Fant back this week. The weapons start to get back into the fold. He's going to have upside in this offense. And the defense, while it did show up last week, I still think that this defense is one that's going to continue to cause, teams are going to have their way with the Denver defense, I think, more times than not. And I think that's going to poise Teddy B for a good game. I think this is a great streaming week for Teddy B.
I agree. All right. That does. Oh, here, I'll give you a couple of quarterbacks that you might want to consider.
Yeah, I just want to note here before we get into this, Taysom Hill and Justin Fields, pure stash. Fields going to be on a bye. Taysom Hill not even announced as the starter. These are going to be stash-worthy quarterbacks, but the reason they're on here top of the list above the streamer and Teddy B is because if you're a contender and you're sitting here or streaming quarterback week to week and you have the bench spot, go pick up one of these guys because I think they have league-winning capabilities should they start getting hot down the stretch.
All right. Would you drop Derek Carr or Danny Dimes for any of these quarterbacks?
Really, really like Derek Carr. I could drop Danny Dimes. He's on bye here.
Yeah.
I really like Derek Carr against Kansas City this week. I think he's going to be a top streaming option for me.
That's a good one. Matt Ryan against Dallas. Would you rather have Matt Ryan against Dallas?
I'd rather take Teddy B here. I think Matt Ryan
is
a little bit up and down for me to trust here.
And then last one, and Ben ended up doing it last night. He ended up getting 20 fantasy points.
Yeah, Ben's
for you.
making it on
Ben
the
against
streaming
Detroit.
radar. I think you could probably put Ben in here above Teddy B, but I think they're very similar in their upside this week.
All right. Well, that does it for this waiver wire show. Whisper Nation, appreciate you all so much for sticking around and tuning in. If you have any other waiver wire questions, concerns, ideas, DM us. Let us know. Leave a comment in the description of this video. We will love to get back to you. Love talking with Whisper Nation.
And Sunner Time here asking, do you guys read the chat? We do. Welcome in.
Yes.
Says, hey,
welcome
in from Twitch. We appreciate everybody.
Let's go. If you're new, hit that subscribe button. Trying to get to 2,200 subscribers. Let's say by week 12.
Yeah, let's do it.
We're going to be by week 12. Let's see if we can get 2,200 subscribers on YouTube. So help us out.
But Sunner, we do actually read the chat, and we just get to it at the end here. So thanks for sticking with us, and we're about to get through these questions now.
All right. So jumping in here, let's see. Yeah, Slim Reaper saying, told you about Pat. He's breaking out. I like it. Right here. Fellas, you rock. Trying to come up. Thinking of trading Daniel Jones for Matt Ryan and T.Y. Hilton for Deshaun Jackson, all bench players. Losing Stafford and Woods this week. Trying to get ahead. Yeah, okay. I got you.
See, who does Matt Ryan play in week 14 for that bye?
Dallas. So he plays Dallas. decent play there.
No, in week 14.
Oh, week 14.
So he plays Carolina. Carolina actually been really good. So I don't know if I'd be trying to look for somebody else here. I don't mind. I think Daniel Jones is a backup QB. Let's see, who does Daniel Jones play in week 14? Because that might actually, you might want to hang tight on Daniel Jones.
And
the Chargers. So kind of a tough matchup as well. But I think I would trust Daniel Jones in his rushing floor over Matt Ryan against Carolina here.
And then you know what I'll tell, or what I would say is here. Let's see, what week is it? Week 15.
Week 14 is when
week
the
14.
Rams bye.
Okay, so Fields is against Green Bay that week. Not like the greatest matchup, but okay. But here's what I'll tell you. Here's what I would advise. And
yes,
I think
Teddy B is playing Detroit that week. So that's
I got an even better one for you.
Ooh.
I got an even better one for you. Trey Lance will be against Atlanta week 14. And you can, against Cincinnati week 14. I would bet that Fields is the starter for the 49ers bye week. Yeah, Trey Lance, who you could probably go get on the waivers right now, cheaper than anybody else, and you won't have to trade anybody. That's probably where I would go, if I'm being honest.
Trilly Seb asking CMC and Cup for Devontae and Cook. Who's winning that? I think the Cup and CMC side wins.
Yeah, I mean, if Cooper Kupp continued to 11 really targets.
Well, it's truly epic saying, but they're all going to do well. I agree.
Yeah.
Hollywood, man, welcome in. He says, I traded Jalen Waddle, Michael Carter, and Emmanuel Sanders for Devontae Adams.
Love it.
Trade. All players I traded were
fantastic.
I love this. If you package bench players to go and get Devontae Adams, that's huge.
That's the stuff we love. Let us know, WhisperNation. We love hearing that stuff.
Just subbed and like you guys. Keep it up. Appreciate
that.
Matt Gidley says, do you like Josh Jacobs or Melvin Gordon III this week, Johnny? We have the Raiders versus Kansas City, and we have Broncos versus Atlanta. I think I might go Melvin Gordon here. He's been doing really well.
I like both these guys, to be honest. Josh Jacobs has been pretty solid as well. He's been relegated. He's no longer getting a whole lot of pass catching work.
Actually, he did. Yes.
I mean, he saw 4.
Yeah.
But I do think that Josh Jacobs is a guy that I would play personally. I think both have a great matchup. I think either way, but I do think Josh Jacobs is a guy. I might be putting him on, if you tune in tomorrow, might be putting him in on that buy low, sell high.
You won't.
Yeah, you won't. So tune into that tomorrow. We'll go live and we'll talk about that. But I don't think you go wrong. But my personal would say Josh Jacobs. I would roll in those flames. But Big Travie also likes Melvin Gordon. And I think that's a good play as well. It's not terrible. Everyone in the chat, press the like button. This video gets recommended. Oh, appreciate that. Look at that, dude. WhisperNation just comes in.
I don't know what you're asking here. Are you asking Elijah Mitchell over Hubbard for next week? I would definitely get Elijah Mitchell in over Hubbard next week with CMC back. I think if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, I would do. Yeah.
Ernest Hines or Pollard from waivers here, says Thomas Medina. Please advise full point PPR. Gracias, you're welcome. I'm going to Ernest of these three. I think I think Zeke's going to be fine. He came back into that game. And then Hines obviously splitting time with Jonathan Taylor. With Chubb out, Ernest is going to be the play this week, especially if you need the play this week.
But I will say, if you don't need the play this week, I'm going Pollard.
Yeah, I think he's the better stash.
He's the guy that you want to stash, because if anything does happen to Zeke and they sit him, like, he's rest of the season a top 10 running back.
KJ, in a non-PPR league, I'm the Kamara owner, and I have Devontae Booker, and the Barkley owner has Ingram. Do I trade Booker for Ingram, or is there more value in keeping Booker going? I actually like this deal for you. I think you get your handcuff, Ingram. I think Booker, we're looking at a situation where Barkley's about to come back, and they have their bye this week, so it's not like you could use Booker this week anyways. Go and get your insurance now before it becomes too late.
And I think that, like we talked about this on the stream last night on our Monday night live stream about how now is the time where you
Brown Cow.
How now Brown Cow. is how you go and you start stashing your running back handcuffs at this point. If you are in that kind of position, obviously, if you need wins and you need to make roster moves, don't do that. But if you're in a position where, you've got 6 wins right now, 6 or more, you could start looking towards the playoffs. There's a good chance you make it. And I would start getting yourself your handcuffs. That way, if anything happens during those weeks, you have an immediate feeling. You don't have to search.
Absolutely. Especially in situations where we know the handcuff. I did this in a league
Right.
at ESPN last week where I have Eckler, which you don't know his handcuffed in that situation. You don't know what it's probably going to be a committee, but I do have Leonard Fournette and Darrell Henderson. So I went and snagged myself Ronald Jones and Sony Michel to make sure I had those backups for the playoff run. And I love Johnny's point. If you got the wins, go do it. Mm-hmm. Center time. I appreciate the patience. You've been waiting with us. Appreciate you watching from Twitch.
Yeah.
Would you start Pat Freiermuth over Hawkinson this week? They play each other. I'm still going Hawkinson here, but I think if you could try and trade Pat Freiermuth out or even Hawkinson because you could get more value, I think that's not a bad situation to do to try and sell some of the hype here.
And look what Cole Clement did last night when you talk about tight end position. 6 of 8 targets for our 87 yards last night for the tight end position. So good matchup for
I do like Hawkinson off the bye coming, getting healthier. We saw how his knee was kind of bothering him earlier this year. I think he could get really healthy here down the stretch for you. So don't give up on Hawkinson just because the shiny toy is there. Yep. Baby Santa.
Oh, I love this.
Should I trade Saquon and Knox for Kelsey in half-point PPR? I'm 6-3 on my running backs would be Taylor, Patterson, and Gaskin if I trade Saquon. Don't trade Saquon and a piece for Kelsey. This is not a good deal for you here, especially in half-point PPR. I would be looking. Could you go Gaskin and Knox for Kelsey? That's a deal I'd be willing to do here to upgrade your position. But other than that,
I don't know if you'd be able to get that. Would you? Let me just ask you this: Would you trade Patterson straight up for Kelsey? Because I think you could get that deal done. Would you do Patterson? And maybe you have to throw on Knox, but.
Yeah, I mean, try that. I don't usually like giving up a running back to get a tight end. That's not you. I like to be on the other side of that, but I don't mind that deal. Patterson's just been so dang good. If he's got dual eligibility in the league you're in right now, I wouldn't be getting rid of him right now.
Yeah, it's hard to do for sure.
Should I start Pittman or Scary Terry this week? I'd continue to roll Terry out there, but man, Pittman is pushing for wide receiver 1 locked in status right now.
Who does Terry McLaurin play?
Washington plays Tampa Bay, so I think the secondary there is they're going to need to throw in that game. So
you're going to want to start. Yeah.
Blue Crew says trade Fant and Ingram for Gesicki. Yeah, I would do this deal. I would package those 2 tight ends up to get a top 5 tight end and PPR.
Love it. Love it, Blue Crew.
Waddle or Lockett in my flex PPR, Johnny. With Russ back, or
with Russ back,
I would Lockett back in your lineup?
I would probably go Lockett.
Is James Conner a must start now? Eric Saldana asks. Yes, he is. He continues to be the back. And
wait a second, Lockett. Yeah, against Green Bay. Yeah. I'm going Lockett.
Yeah. Is James Conner a must start now? Yes, Eric, he is. Absolutely.
Yes.
I am 4-5. Should I wait a little longer before trading away some players? I mean, you're at the perfect roster point right now to kind of wait a little bit, because if you're not a terrible losing record, so you don't need to go and do a bunch of blow-ups right now. Try and get a couple more wins and position yourself before. And depends on your trade deadline too.
Right.
Eagle Fang says trade Andrews and Melvin Gordon for Kamara or Henderson. Henderson would be a nice grab here, but I do like Mark Andrews. I continue to like Mark Andrews, so... But, I mean, I think Melvin Gordon and Andrews for Henderson. Would you go and do that deal, Johnny? What's your other tight ends, Eagle Fang?
Yeah, it would be interesting to see your other, but I don't mind going to try to trade. Do we know the severity of the Henderson? That was weird. They were like, did you get that? Yeah, he came back immediately after Sleeper had sent out a blurb saying, "Oh, Henderson's down and out. Questionable return the rest of the game." Very next game, very next play.
Yeah, it's an ankle. He says it wasn't really effective, but again, Sony Michel is going to be a big ad for those that have Henderson.
I really like getting Henderson.
Yeah, I do too.
I would probably rather have, in all honesty, Henderson over Kamara the rest of the season. I'm not saying that Henderson will undoubtedly score more points, but I feel more confident in playing Henderson over Kamara each week. because you just don't know what you're going to get from Kamara. You're hoping that you get one of those mega ball stays,
Yeah,
but
a lot's changing in that Saints offense.
So
I do like this deal, but you're taking a lot of risk with Henderson's injury. So I would try to get Andrews out of that deal. Can you package Melvin Gordon and something else to get?
Yeah, there you go. I like that
because I like Andrews' usage here.
Yeah.
Oh, he says he's got Pat Freiermuth as his other tight end.
Oh, so you're rolling in the flames.
I just think Andrews is top 3 upside rest of season here.
Yeah.
Daryl Kilgore says, is Michael Carter a must start? It depends on when Zach Wilson comes back, because I think we were seeing this offense pepper down Michael Carter with targets. So for me, he's not he's a must start when we've got him with Mike Effin Smith here.
Yeah, if Smith ends up playing, then you definitely like that boding well much better for, especially going against Buffalo, who we do know that they'll try to check down to running backs a lot there. But it is concerning that he only saw 2 targets, Travis, when Mike Effin White wasn't the quarterback.
Yeah,
there.
That's what I'm saying. It's
so
if we can get him back in. We don't know.
Yeah,
I would be trying to trade Michael Carter if I could. Again, he was a sell high last week for me. I continue to think that he's a sell high.
Miami, Houston, Philadelphia, New Orleans, Miami. I mean, he has some decent matchups coming during the playoffs. Yeah, but not down the stretch. You don't necessarily love.
Should I trade Zeke and Jacoby Myers for Darrell Henderson and McLaurin?
I would do this.
I would be hesitant to give up Zeke, especially for an injured Henderson. We just don't know what's going on with Henderson, if this is going to be lingering or not. I
think I would do this.
Yeah,
I think McLaurin is such a high, you're getting so much more ceiling with McLaurin that I think it overshadows the Zeke. It does. Again, it is a little unfortunate that Henderson is a little banged up right now, so it's not like a clear-cut answer. But I mean, neither is Zeke at this point, too, right?
Baby Santa asking us, do you think Robert Woods is a sell high right now, or is this sustainable?
I think it's sustainable what he's doing right now. He is getting a solid amount of targets every single week on one of the best offenses in football. He's a top 15. He's been a top 15 receiver for the last 3 years.
Yeah, now he's a wide receiver 1. He's gotten into the wide receiver 1 categories, the wide receiver 12 in PPR. I think it continues. I think Johnny has called this pretty much the whole way, and it continues to be the case. Truly epic. Who claims OBJ? What does everyone think? I doubt he gets claimed today. We'll know in a couple hours when the deadline is. But I think
where do you think he goes?
Hopefully Green Bay.
I'm going to say, I don't think he gets claimed. I think he goes to New Orleans, or he ends up going
he said
to
a contender.
Seattle.
So if he said he wanted to clear waivers to go to a contender, I don't think either of those teams are as much of a contender as a Green Bay or somebody else like that. So
I agree. I'm not disagreeing.
I don't see how. So if he clears waivers, that's my thing. He said he wants to be on a contender. So
yeah.
Julio, Pittman, or Terry? I mean, I'd take a Terry rest of season, but Pittman's close.
Yeah.
Man. He's getting in there, man.
Yeah, I know if you're asking for this week.
This week. He just says Anuna this week. I'd still go Terry. I think Terry against Tampa Bay, they allow the most passing attempts against them. And that defensive cornerback situation has been
Pittman against Jacksonville is also juicy, but yeah, I would go in reverse order of this for rankings. I would go Terry, Pittman, then Julio.
I'm with you. I think that does it for us here, Johnny.
Eric just asking, is Waller still a stash or sell high?
Stash. I mean, he's in your lineup. You just saw 11 targets last week. We're not selling high on Waller unless you absolutely need to get some sort of running back help. If you can get some running back and you have a decent tight end to back up Waller, sure. But again, I think Waller's starting to come into his own. The bye week did him really well, and 11 targets was his second highest to 19 on week 1. I think we're starting to see, especially with Ruggs out, Waller's going to be leaned on quite a bit.
All right, Big Travie, that does it for our show today. The waiver wire week 10 is now in the books. Again, appreciate you so much, Whisper Nation, for stopping by, hanging out with us, tuning in. Make sure you check out tomorrow. We'll be doing our buy low, sell high show, as well as give you some corners or some wide receivers that you could expect to have mega ball stays, and then a couple of wide receivers you might be expecting mega ball stays, but you got to temper those expectations because of the matchup. We'll talk about those on tomorrow's show. So make sure you're hitting that subscribe. Make sure you're hitting that bell so you get notified exactly when we go live, so you can join us and ask all those questions as well. Appreciate you so much, Whisper Nation. Good luck on your waivers. Any final words, Big Travie?
No, I didn't realize it till the end of the show. Sony Michel would have made the column as well as a stash right now. If there's going to be an ankle injury with Henderson, he's going to be a guy that could easily just slot right into the role that they need in this offense, which is a big one.
All right, that does it for Big Travie, for Johnny Game Time Hicks. Take it easy, Whisper Nation. Good luck on those waivers. We're out. We'll see you tomorrow. Peace.
Peace.
Right here.
Look at you go. You made it to the end of another one of our videos. Hey, if you still have some questions, I totally understand. Or you just want to join an awesome fantasy football community, head on over to our Discord chat. Link is in the description below. And if you're still not sold on us, check out one of these videos.